All right, perfect. So welcome everybody. We're going to give 2 minutes to everyone to start, but just some house rules first. For those who are new joining us this evening. Firstly, please keep your video and your sound on mute during the class. And please be on standby because Sophia will be asking some questions. She will be having some quizzes done throughout the class. So if she asks you to unmute, and then please do so. If you have any questions, you're welcome to drop them in the chat box. Alternatively, you can just raise your hand and then we shall attend to you. All right, let me just see what's the time. All right, it is 2 minutes past 7. I think we can get going then. Sophia, are you ready?
Ready. Let's do this.
All right, perfect. Sorry, everyone, just for all those newcomers just joining us today. Sophia is our facilitator. She has, just correct me, yes, Sophia. She has a level 6 qualification ECD, and she also runs a home in Gauteng where she deals also with ECD. So she has all the knowledge, all the skills to guide you through this course. Perfect. Thank you so much, Sophia. You can get started.
Good evening, everybody. Just a correction there. I don't have all the knowledge and all the skills. I learn every day. I'm in the ECD field now for about 17 years, but I promise you, it changes all the time. The landscape changes all the time. The rules, the regulations around running ECDs changes all the time. So it's important for us to always come with an empty cup to class so that we are able to absorb as much information as possible. Remember, the classes are only 1 hour long, and in between we will be asking you questions or asking you to read the slides that appear, that come up on the screen, and this is to ensure that you are participating in the class, obviously for your own good. Also remember that the classes are recorded, so it is available on the portal for you to refer to later. And there's various WhatsApp groups also where you can post questions and we will try to answer them as quickly as possible. So without any further ado, we're going to go into our first module for 2024. And session 1 speaks about the quality and the standards of ECD practice and practitioners. All right. So the outcomes for this lesson at the beginning, for those of us who are new to tertiary education, the first page is always going to speak about what are we going to get out of this lesson? What are we going to get out of this session? All right. So number 1, it speaks about identifying basic theoretical needs of an ECD center and practitioner. In plain and simple terms, what do you need? What does your center need in order to be legit, not to be Fong Kong? All right. Number 2, we say we identify environments that prohibit or inhibit child growth and development. What are the environments or the places that stop children from developing at their maximum capacity? And then lastly, we say after you have done with this lesson, you should be able to observe children and provide the necessary support that they need and that their family needs. And basically, from your observation, you will be able to say what the child needs or what you suspect at least the child needs. All right, so that's the outcomes that we are identifying for the end of this lesson. All right, we'll jump right into our next slide, and that is the introduction. All right. So in order for us to understand what our topic is going to be revolving around today, we have a little introduction on the page, and we're saying basically that children that are exposed to early childhood services are prone to have higher intelligence scores, less grade repetition, and lower dropout rates. So basically what that is saying is because children go to ECD centers, they have a better foundation of making it when they get to primary school and then to high school and tertiary level. All right. Secondly, we say that they may also have improved social and emotional behavior as well as improved parent child relationships. Remember, the social aspect comes in because they are interacting with their peers, they are interacting with other individuals that is their age, they're interacting with other caregivers that is not from their normal family background. All right, so they have a better um, outlook on life because their horizons are being broadened by being in the ECD center with many other people that come from many different backgrounds. Evidence based early childhood development standards are essential in planning and measuring the quality of services to young children. So, we have people in the background of the ECD world who sit and they study the different ECD centers and all the children's history that comes with it, the setup of the school. And from there, they are able to define which practices are best for children, and then they develop the curriculums of the different countries and the different philosophies according to this evidence. All right. Lastly, we're saying early childhood development programs ensure that children will have better health and development outcomes by providing all the standards that are required. Example, health, nutrition, child protection, learning intervention, etc., etc. All right. So early childhood development goes far way beyond what we just see in front of us when we're sitting in the class. The introduction here is telling us that a lot of research and years of training, trialing, testing, making errors went into the specific field of early childhood development to get us to the point where we are today. All right, we can go on to our next slide. I will soon be asking learners to read the slides. Please prepare yourself. When your name is called, I will tell you before the time. You will unmute yourself and then you will read to us the slide. All right. So today we're dealing with the standards for quality early childhood care, development, and protection. If you're starting off in this field, you need to understand and know what the norms and the standards, the protocols, and the play field is in early childhood development. This is the most important point for us to begin at. So, number one, with regards to standards, is we look at the relations with adults and peers. Can I just ask that person to be muted, please?
Oh wait, that might be me. Wait, please hold.
All right. So, the reason why we say that relationships with adults and peers are of utmost importance is because point number one tells us it creates responsive and positive relationships between the children and the adults. I always make mention of this point when it comes up. And I say, when we look at how the children in a typical South African government school interacts in the beginning of the year with unknown adults or the new caregivers or new ECD practitioners, it's amazing to see the difference between the South African context and maybe, let's say, the American context. You know, those children are much more outspoken, much more confident, not so shy because they are used to going on play dates. They are used to interacting with other people that are different from them, and they have more trusting and positive relationships with adults. Number two, we say adults need to have a warm and nurturing nature in order to interact with children. And this is also another reason why predominantly you will find that there are more, I would say 99.9% of the time, females in the ECD facilitation sphere compared to males. Because naturally for females, they have that mothering nature to them, they have that warmth, they have that loving nature, very forgiving, very understanding, very compassionate, kisses your boo-boos and all of those type of things. All right. So the child needs to be engaging with adults that are warm and nurturing. Then, lastly, we say with regards to relationships with adults and peers, that children are more likely to gain trust and confidence in their interactions with those around them if all of these aspects are in place. All right. So the adults must be warm and they must be nurturing. They must be responsive. What do we mean when we say responsive? If a child comes to you and he complains that he ran into a door, you don't you don't just say, suck it up, get over it, that's life. You respond, you show empathy to his hurt, you investigate, is there a bleed, is there a cut, you administer first aid, you tell him that it's okay, these things happen, you can carry on again if you're feeling better. Do you want to rest a little bit? Have some water. You show care. You show concern. You are responsive. You respond to any query of theirs, to any cry for attention of theirs. All right. If you do not have this inherently in you, do not lose fear. Do not do not become alarmed. It is something that you learn as you go along. All right. To others, it comes more naturally. Some of us, it's a little bit more harder. All right, we can go on to our next slide. I see there's a message in the chat box. No. All right. We are now on slide number 5. Slide number 6 will be read by Kathy Mokoka. Please prepare yourself. I will be reading slide number 5 now. Soon after that, you will be reading slide number 6. All right. So here also we speak about, continuing from our last slide, we're speaking about the promoting of attachment for all children with at least one adult to allow children to have a secure, safe, and stable experience. So this should answer the question to many people ask me, so innocently, why is it that in the higher grades, the children change periods and they go to different teachers, or different teachers come to their class and it's refreshing and they enjoy it so much? Why can't they do that in the ECD and in the primary settings as well? Because children of that age are not well adjusted emotionally to adapt to new faces all the time. They feel safer when there is one consistent adult with them all the time. All right? At least one adult. That creates within them a feeling of safety, security, and predictability. Later on, as they mature, as they grow, as they learn to trust adults and have positive relationships, like we said in the previous slide, we then slowly phase them on to changing periods, maybe once a day, or they get a new physical education teacher that comes in and changes the scene. We don't simply just throw them into the deep end in the early years. All right. We also speak about activities like bathing, feeding, playing, encourages various sensory stimulation through which children learn. All right. So in the ECD setting, especially in the younger years, in the 1 to 2, 2 to 3-year-old classes, these things are part of their curriculum. They even sleep at class. We have these cute little maths and we have regulations around the spaces that must be between the children and the maths and all of those type of things, because children at that age learn through those activities. All right, we will speak about age appropriate activities as we go along as well. And then we come to point number 2 with regards to the standards for quality early childhood care. And point number 2 says that one of the standards is that there must be in place health, nutrition, and safety education, right? And this is to ensure that children needs are met as far as health is concerned. Families and communities are provided with information to guide and take care of children. So how do we make this happen? We make this happen by including it in our program through educating children and caregivers about the importance of nutritious food and so on. We also do conducting of safety measures like immunization cards. When those immunization cards come to your school, you're starting off a new school, or you are in a school and you see it only gets photocopied and it goes into a file. Please bring it to the attention of the appropriate person, whether that is the HOD, whether that is the principal, that those clinic cards need to be checked by a health professional who is up to date with the different immunizations and the milestones at which intervals those immunizations need to be administered. Otherwise, you're just basically carrying dead weight. All right. So a responsible and knowledgeable educator, principal, HOD would then take those photocopied clinic cards, send it to the clinic if they don't have the luxury of the clinic coming to them, and ask for it to be assessed and to highlight on those photocopies which children need immunizations. Either what would happen then is the notification will be sent to the parent that these are the immunizations that your child are short on. Please go and have them sort it out. Or the school will then give those, permission slips to say that we're taking all the children on this day and that day and whatever not for this, that, and the other immunization. Please give a sign here to give authorization. Under no circumstances whatsoever do we take matters into our own hands with regards to something as important as immunization. We know that there's a fraction of society that does not believe in immunizations, and they are free to do so. You also, as an ECD center, have a admission, what do we call it, the right of admission policy, where you can say that if your child is not immunized, we do not accept such children, and so on and so forth. We won't go into that today. Whoever wants to know further on that, you can inbox us on one of the WhatsApp groups for further information on that. All right. Whoa, that was a whole mouthful, 5 pages down. I heard I am supposed to take a break and ask some questions before Kathy Mokoka is going to read our next slide. So let me ask a question. Lebo Ntsobi, I'm going to ask you a question. If you can unmute yourself, please, my dear. And my question to you is with regards to the first standard for quality early childhood care. We spoke about the relationship with adults and peers. Can you tell me a little bit regarding what that would entail? We spoke about responsive, we spoke about positive relationships, we spoke about the nature of the caregiver. Could you give me in a nutshell what that meant to you, Lebo?
I'm so sorry to to do this. I just literally logged in now because I just got back from work now. Got up first. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
All right. No, it's fine. It's fine. I'll keep you in the back of my mind. We'll go to the next person. Valencia, are you there? Okay, we will come back to Valencia. We're going to go to slide number 6 now.
Wait, sorry, Sophia, I see Valencia's just
Okay,
unmuted.
she unmuted. Okay, you can go ahead, Valencia.
Can you repeat your question, please?
Okay, so my question was with regards to the first standard that we did for early childhood care. We spoke about the relationship between the adult and the child. Could you
Yes.
tell me a little bit what you took away from that discussion?
What I learned about this discussion, we have to be able to observe the child
Mm-hmm.
and to identify the basic theory
Mm-hmm.
and is what I can say.
Okay, no problem.
Yes.
That's not bad for a first time try. Well done, Valencia. All right, I see
Thank
Kathy is talking about being on load shedding. Can we go to the next slide, please, Pedro? So Kathy can read. Okay, there we go. Kathy, you can go ahead, my dear, and read your slide. Okay, time is going. I don't have no response from Kathy. I hope I'm not offline.
No,
Lirato.
you.
Okay. Lirato Gambo, would you be able to read for us the next slide, please, my dear?
Yes, please. Can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you. You can go ahead. Welcome to the class.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure. We are looking at early childhood curriculum. It says here the curriculum ensures that children develop according to their interests, age, developmental level, etc., to reach their maximum potential. And we have early childhood programs that should be considered. Early childhood programs should consider. Let me say that again. Early childhood programs should consider one curriculum that adhere to values, beliefs, experiences, etc. They should also promote wellness and nutrition, safety in all areas of their development. And we have catering for children's needs for indoor and outdoor play, creativity, as well as physical movement.
Excellent stuff. Thanks, Lerato.
You're welcome.
All right. So for those who have just joined us, we are discussing today the standards for quality early childhood care. And we have 10 points that we're discussing today. We are now on point number 3. Every time a new point comes up, you will see just below that, it says early childhood programs should consider. And then basically it just gives you a brief explanation of what the standard above it is. So this page that we read now, that Lerato read now, basically speaks about the curriculum. In the ECD sphere, we need to understand in South Africa, we are regulated by the government to ensure that we adhere to the standards that the education department puts out for us. So you will find people speaking about Montessori. You will find people speaking about Ginaldo. You will find many different curriculums that people speak about. The South African government does not have a problem with that as long as you can align the different standards in those programs with the National Curriculum Framework in South Africa, the NCF it's called. You can also look up something called the elders, and that is the early learning development areas. So whatever books it is you are going to be teaching, remember, we are outcomes-based education in South Africa. We do not care so much for the content. We care that the outcomes must be reached. All right, very, very important. And so you will see that they tell you here that the curriculum must adhere to values, beliefs, experiences of that child, of that community, of that society. So if you're running a Christian school, if you're running a Muslim school, and you are teaching according to your biblical scriptures in those different programs, it is not a problem as long as your curriculum covers the outcomes that is desired by the national curriculum frameworks and the elders within the ECD sector. All right. So I don't want you to think too much about that today, but I do want you, if Pedro can just type for us in the chat box, the National Curriculum Framework. I would like everybody to look that up. It's the short for that is NCF. Please read up about that. As well as something called the ELDA, which is ELDA, and it's also got to do with ECD and curriculums and all of those type of things, right? So it's basically just telling you, in order to run an ECD program, point number 3 that you need to have in check is a good curriculum. You must have something, a plan on what you're going to teach the children, number 1. Number 2, it must be according to their age and the developmental the developmental stages that they are in. So you cannot go and ask a 2-year-old child to do something that he's not capable of doing. You cannot ask him to go and study a biology paper that is suited for a grade 10 level, for example. All right. So we just need to know that these things are already in place in our South African context, that we just simply need to go onto the internet and research these things, go to the Department of Education, get the proper paperwork if we do decide we are going to open up our own schools, and follow the advices that are given according to the norms and the standards. All right, we can go on to our next slide now. Slide number 7. And here we speak about the training of early childhood caregivers. Slide number 8 will be read to us by Shumi after I am done reading the current slide that is showing here now. So please prepare yourself, Shumi. I won't ask too many questions, so don't be nervous, all right? All right. So according to the standards for quality early childhood care, development and protection, point number 5, we say that the ECD center and its practitioners must have a relationship with the parents of the children who are in your school. You cannot ignore the fact that they exist. We always say in the education field that the success of the ECD program, of the education program, depends on a triangle. At the top tier of the triangle is the child, and on the right side is the parent, on the left side is the educator. These three must work together with each other and not against each other. The minute the parent starts speaking bad about the teacher to the child is not going to be receptive to the knowledge that the teacher is trying to impart on the child. The minute the teacher starts speaking bad about your mother and your father and your house and everybody there is just drunk and dirty and whatever, the child is not going to be receptive to the knowledge. All right. So all three in the sphere need to respect each other. Sometimes it's not the parent, sometimes it's gogo, sometimes it's a concerned auntie that always shows up, or a cousin that always shows up. You need to build a relationship with the child's primary caregiver or primary family that they live with if you want whatever you are teaching in your classroom to be reinforced when that child goes home. If you do not show them that respect, if you do not show them that consideration, they would not care to reinforce the values, the knowledge, the systems, and everything that you are trying to achieve within your class. Understood? Right. So the relationship with the parent or the family, we say, it should focus on encouraging respect and support, and also towards building sustainable relationships with these families to guarantee long lasting solutions for the children. So if you show them that you are concerned about their children, and you do not only contact them when you want to complain, we know those teachers, we know those schools. When you see a phone call coming from them, you know already, oh, this is a problem. What did my child do now again? You understand what I'm saying? I saw a meme the other day where the parent is saying to the teacher, okay, I understand that it's now the 10th time that this child is doing something wrong, that you're phoning me now again. But I just want to say that I spent 6 weeks with them at home and they did lots of wrong, and I never ever phoned the school to complain about it, you know? So we need to be really considerate and we need to be tactful when engaging with the parents, and not only reach out to them with negativity. Phone them occasionally to tell them about the good work that the children is doing. Send a WhatsApp message with the beautiful work that the child had accomplished for the day, or just a simple message: the children are all playing soccer. These are the benefits and the large motor skills and the fine motor skills that is being developed. Please encourage them to join a club after school to enhance this. They seem to be really interested in it. All right. Thank you for sending your children early to school every day. This week, we've been able to cover much more work. I promise you they're going to try to send the children again early in the weeks that are coming ahead. All right. So in order to have this relationship with parents, we're saying that your ECD program must consider the following: setting up services that welcome and encourage participation from families. Have a suggestion box outside and take the suggestion box seriously. Don't just say, leave it there just so that they can feel like they have something to say, but we know everything. We will never know everything. Never. All right. So listen. If you do not understand, if you are confused about what they're saying, give them a call, drop them a WhatsApp message. We found your suggestion there. We just wanted to know more about it. Is it possible for you to come in and chat with us for 10 minutes tomorrow when you're dropping Tato off at school? Simple as that. so that they actually see that you are listening to them, so that tomorrow when you say we want to build a new jungle gym, or we want to improve or repair our current swimming pool, or whatever the case may be, they will feel like they are active members and their contributions are taken seriously, and they will participate and help you raise those funds. All right. It also speaks about communicating regularly with caregivers about the progress of the children we spoke about. And lastly, it is saying here, providing information to families about local services that concern work, education, health, spiritual growth. So as an ECD facilitator, as an ECD center, we need to be up to date with all of these things that concern education, health, spiritual growth, and so on and so forth. So we will make sure that we are on the local church groups, that we are on the CPF, that we are on the community builders, that we are everywhere. And when opportunities come up, we share that with our parents in our ECD center, so that we create a community of Ubuntu, a community of samelewing, a community of togetherness, care, and concern for one another. Usually, what happens is that the children will go to the nearest ECD from their house to avoid extra transport costs and stuff like that. All right. So there is that strong sense of community most of the time already in place. All right. So that is standard number 5 of the early childhood development curriculums, early childhood development standards. All right, we will now go on to our next slide. Page number 9, I think it is. And we have asked Shumi to read that slide for us. If you could unmute yourself, please, Shumi.
Thank you.
Hi there.
How are you, everyone?
Good, good. Thanks. And yourself?
I'm fine, thanks.
All right, welcome to the class.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay,
Okay,
you can go ahead and read.
Okay, so is it the one that says evaluating young children?
That's it, point number 6.
Yes, okay. Okay, it reads, this assessment needs to be about what the child can do within their abilities, values, and culture. Early childhood programs should consider having assessment plans that meet national standards and its impact on children, families, as well as communities. Evaluations should be used for interventions at various levels of a child's life. Regularly observing their children's learning capabilities, interests, home and school life. Assessing whether caregivers participate in data collection, including children's self-evaluation.
All right.
Okay.
Anything that you understand from there that you want to tell us about?
Yes, I think on that part where it says that this assessment needs to be about what the child can do within their abilities, values, and culture. I'll just explain maybe what I understand. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. There's
Okay.
no right and wrong. It's just what you understand.
I'm thinking like, yes, let's say, for example, if if the caregivers or the teachers had to do like plan an activity for young children, they actually have to consider something that maybe each child is able to do, or not something maybe that is over their age that they cannot be able to do. And also when it talks about their abilities, each child is different or is unique in their own way of doing things. So there won't be any expectation of saying maybe they should have been done this, but actually they can do whatever they can do at their age. I don't know if that sounds fine.
100%. I think you got it. Okay. So thanks for that, Shumi.
Thank
So
you.
we will remember in the beginning of the session tonight, we spoke a little bit about assessing the children. and I said that we would expand on that a little bit more. Again, it's very simple in the South African context. You have ready-made assessments according to the ELDA, according to the national curriculum framework that you can use to assess your children. And you will see these play out in the children's reports, where most of the time they are identical from one public school to another public school. It is mostly in the private schools where we add in a little bit more to give extra value, because that's how South Africa works. All right. The private setting is obviously going to give a little bit more extra effort. Again, you will find more information on that when you go and look up ELDAS and the National Curriculum Framework. All right. Thank you very much for that reading, Shumi. I'm going to be asking some questions now regarding what we spoke about earlier. If I can just have Molly. Okay, I don't see Molly having a mic or letting having a mic. Talita. Talita, if you can unmute yourself for me, please. Okay, no response from Talita. Let's speak to Lebu. Lebu, are you settled in now? Can you speak to us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I want you to tell me a little bit about what you heard when you just got into the class. What were we speaking about?
I think what stood out for me was the part regarding the cards, the clinic cards, where you
Okay.
mentioned that the HOD, when they actually file the clinic cards without
Yeah,
evaluation, it's literally dead. So it's important, or rather imperative, that one needs to ensure that they get the copy of the clinic card and they get it to the nearest clinic. And also maybe building a relationship with clinic sisters is vital in this regard. Then that will be easier for
Wow.
you. Then they can to ensure that they do all the checks, and then once that is actually in line in terms of the standards and norms that is required, can then be filed
Mm.
accordingly.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's something that I always speak about that I didn't mention this round. That's actually imperative as an ECD center. We spoke earlier about getting in touch with the CPA, getting in touch with, all of these people. One of the important people to get in touch with are the sisters at the clinics or at your local hospital. For this very reason, children get sick, and in I don't know where everybody else comes from, but the world that I come from and the world that I teach in, very, very few, I think maybe 5 or 10% of the children are on medical aid. So when we do have to rush somebody for an emergency, we usually go to the nearest clinic. And if you don't have a good relationship with the sisters at the clinic, if you didn't go there, introduce yourself, the work that you do, and just, make friends with them, then you're going to have a very big problem when you rock up there with 70 clinic cards and ask for it to be assessed. So even if you look at the health calendar, it's important to make it part of your year planner. When they're having diabetes week, or they're having cancer awareness, or whatever, according to the national health calendars, you need to schedule that in. Go to the manager at the clinic and ask that on these days, can we have a sister or the dietitian or the social worker that works here come to our center, and come and do, a small talk with the parents, with the children, with the educators about all of this. And that is how we are going to be able to enhance not only the relationship with the local community, but with the parents as well as with the children and our staff members, because everybody would be then in a setting where they are learning together. Nobody is more superior to another. All right. So thanks for bringing that up, Lebo. We will now go on to our next slide. Slide number 7, and we're speaking now about early childhood environments. All right, I'm going to read slide number 7, and then point number 7, and then point number 8. Let me just look at my class register here. I'm going to check again with Talita to read point number 8. All right. So point number 7. Number 7 of what? Number 7 of the standards, the 10 standards that we are discussing today for early childhood development settings. All right. So the 7th point is the environments. We say that the programs are put in place to promote safety, both physically and psychologically. The environment must promote safety, both physically and psychologically. You can have a safe environment where all the electrical circuit points are plugged up and nobody gets shocked and nobody is drinking poison because you put all the poison high out of reach of the children. But if psychologically the teachers are beating up the children, the staff are busy hitting each other because of boyfriends and whatever, that means that environment psychologically is not safe for the child. All right. So the first thing we speak about ECD environments is regards to safety, both physically and psychologically. All right. And also we say safe and healthy environments are environments in which children can explore, they can play, and they can practice freely without any harm coming to them physically or mentally. All right. So in order to have these 2 points inculcated into our program, we need to consider the following points. Number 1, clearing the environment from any unsafe hazardous objects, example, unsafe equipment, violence, pollution. All right. So you can go and Google this as well. There is something called a ECD safety checklist, and it will speak to you about the things I just mentioned now. Hazardous poisons, chemicals that needs to be stored out of reach of children. If you can't find a high place to put it, or even if the place is high, but it is unprotected, meaning a child can get up there by putting a chair and climbing on the cupboard and then getting to the poison, that means it's not a safe storage space. It then needs to go into a place that can be locked up, a place that children don't play around very often, that is far out of sight. All right. And then also we speak about violence there in that point. And that is the reason why you will see when you are busy setting up an ECD center, they ask you how near or how far are you from the closest shebeen to you. If it is less than 5 kilometers from you, there is a high chance that they will decline that application. They will turn away that application. Why? Because shebeens are synonymous with drunk people and violence and bottles flying everywhere and people losing their minds. All right. So an environment that is safe for children cannot have those elements in them. Right. And then also what we need to consider for safe environments is services that encourage sanitation, personal hygiene, safe and nutritious food, portable water, etc., etc. So you cannot be running an ECD center if you do not have access to clean water. In today's time, very few of us that are on internet right now actually live in places that don't have running water. But even in those cases, there are JoJo tanks, there are tanks that have taps attached to them. It doesn't necessarily have to be flowing water out of a council thing. Some people have boreholes, some people have tanks that get filled up once a week or whatever, but you must have access to clean water, all right? And also the food must be safe and it must be nutritious. All right, you can't be serving the children 2-minute noodles in your school because you're tired of making heavy meals or whatever the case is. It needs to be nutritious food. And I always say nutritious doesn't mean that it is tasteless. You can use your imagination. You can get beautiful flavors going in there if you really just keep on trying and practicing to improve, right? The utilization of materials from children's local environment, including natural materials. That means don't make excuses that you don't have Montessori equipment. Go outside and go and see what is there that you can get the same outcomes. Remember, outcomes based education. If we say you need to be, the children need to be doing one-to-one correspondence, they need to be putting a stick there, and the stick that they showed you there is a beautifully colored plastic, blue, green, pink stick. You don't have that. You go outside in the garden, you get twigs, you do the same thing. If you want to color it pink, girl, you color it pink, blue, green, whatever other colors you saw on there, and you make it happen, as long as the outcome is going to be that the child is able to do one-to-one correspondence. All right. So important, we need to understand that we need to be creative and we need to be innovative. We need to make a plan. Look at what the outcome is and try to achieve that outcomes. Don't make a problem for every solution. Look for a solution for every problem or every obstacle that you face as an ECD facilitator. That is what makes you spunky. That is what makes you exciting in your class. That's what makes your class come alive. And that is what would make you enjoy your class. All right. Lastly, we say with regards to the environments of early childhood development, it needs to be an inclusive environment that welcomes families and is suitable for children who have special developmental and learning needs. In the olden days, we used to refer to this as disabled children. And now in today's time, the politically correct term to use is differently abled. All right. We go on to our next slide now. Who did we ask? Telita, would you be so kind to read point number 8, management and administration, for us, please? I can hear the crickets. Valencia, are you there? Okay, we only have 10 minutes left. Is there anybody that would like to volunteer to read? You will get 10 extra points on your next assignment. Compliments of me.
Yes,
Okay.
please. I'm going to take
You could
Okay, wait. Lebu, let's give Lerato this one. You can do the next one, okay? You can do point number 9. Lerato, you can go ahead with point number 8.
point number 8, management and administration. The primary focus to provide high quality care and services that promote growth.
Yeah.
Quality improves when programs better understand child development and standards for quality early childhood services. Quality can also be maintained by continuous training and development of caregivers and staff. And then under early childhood programs should consider providing information that will engage families and communities about early childhood development services. Having in place childhood materials that depict national policies and standards for quality child care. Having a system that promotes training, mentoring, professional development of teachers or caterers for the longevity of the service.
Right. Excellent stuff, Lerato. Thank you so much. All right. So basically, this is speaking more to people that are dealing with the management and the running of the school, not so much you yourself as the practitioner in the class. All right. But it is important for you to know what is happening behind the scenes in the management and in the administration of the school in order for you to grow in your field. Because when you grow, this is eventually where you're going to go into management and to administration. And you will see here that they speak a lot and they pick a lot on training and development, continuous training and development. Like I said in the beginning of the session, it changes, the playing field changes all the time. The laws and the regulations that govern all professional fields changes all the time. And that is why the government and the education, CETAs, and all of these people have introduced this new policy of CPD, continuous professional training. And in every profession, it says that you need to do something like, I think, 20 to 35 credits every year in learning material, refreshing material, new information material that comes up to show that you are keeping up to the current trends and changes that are happening in your field. Somebody that went to study ECD 20 years ago, if they have to come into a setting in a up-to-date ECD class today, it's like they would be lost because that information is so outdated. Imagine if you went into surgery and they tell you, this guy over here, he studied to be a doctor 60 years ago by a university that no longer exists. And the last time he picked up a book to check his facts and his study material was about 15 years ago. You wouldn't feel safe in the arms of that theater and in the arms of that surgeon. Am I right? All right. So very important for you to understand when your management and your administration services in your ECD center come to you as a practitioner and say that there's a course coming out this weekend and it's got to do with Play-Doh and fine motor skills development and whatever, and we want you to go. Don't pull your face up. Take it as an opportunity to stay fresh. Take it as an opportunity to keep up to date with trends and learn as much as you can so that you can be the most vibrant in your field. Whatever you're going to be, make sure that you are the best at it. All right. And then we go to our second last point, point number 9. And Lebu will be reading this point for us. Services for young children with special needs.
Okay. Services for young children with special needs. They should be educated that children with disabilities have the same rights as those without disabilities and thereof should be treated equally. Early childhood centers should consider promoting a positive attitude, strong communities with children with disabilities, promoting inclusivity to the service, e.g. ECD centers, health clinics, etc., quickly identifying developmental delays and ensure appropriate early intervention, advocating for equal rights and opportunities for children living with disabilities and their families, irrespective of gender, religion, culture, background, etc.
100%. Anything you want to add in the mix there regarding children with special needs, Lebo?
Not really, but
Okay.
I think I've been exposed to autistic kids. So for me, that there's a niche in terms of that space because you
Yeah.
find that a whole ECD practitioners that they would not be equipped. So
Yeah.
in an ideal world, it would be nice to maybe even have one practitioner that might be exposed to maybe some form of training should they
Yeah.
be particular child that gets to be enrolled in one of the centers, that would help the parents because you'd find that some of the parents would have to travel to maybe 15 kilometers to get a
Yeah.
center that can be accommodative in terms of whatever needs that their child has. And that does not speak to inclusivity. So that's something that I think ECD centers needs to be cognizance of, or rather
Yeah.
consider maybe in the future.
100%. 100%. I think there is a big niche for that in our communities. And it needs to be given more airtime, more consideration. A lot of the times I think as teachers, because they are so under pressure to keep with the program and don't have time to step out and sit with these children specifically, we really need to, as ECD centers, look into that gap and maybe even employ assistants in our classrooms that would be able to help those children with extra needs in terms of feeding, in terms of toileting, and so on and so forth. All right. But thank you for those points. I think it's something that maybe Nick will include in the modules to come. Uh, um, special needs, educating children with special needs. I also want to touch on the point of quickly identifying developmental delays. And thus, you can only know when you study early childhood development and the milestones that they're supposed to be reaching at certain points. If you don't know that at this age of almost 2 years old, the child should be speaking full sentences from about 18 months of age, you wouldn't be alarmed if that child isn't saying a word. All right. But if you know that just before that child hits 2 years of age, he's going to be speaking full sentences, you would know that around about 18 months, he's going to start speaking broken words and putting phrases together and so on and so forth. So you will know that child is safe. All right. So we can only know how to identify developmental delays by knowing what the milestones are. And how do we know the developmental milestones? By studying the material that is presented to us, and further than that, by going and researching whenever we are given references to research. All right, we come to our last slide for tonight, point number 10 of the 10 points. I'm going to read it quickly. We have 4 minutes left for the class. I'm going to read it quickly and then we can end of our session. Please do excuse me for rushing through the session, but it is only meant to open your curiosity, and the rest of it you need to go and research yourself. Remember that you are dealing in an ABET field, adult basic education sphere, and I'm not supposed to be spoon feeding you, but I like to engage in discussion with you and open that discussion so that you understand what the atmosphere of the learning is supposed to be and what you're supposed to be researching or looking out for in order to succeed in the program. Right, so point number 10 of 10, child protection. The focus is on child safety and protection from any form of abuse. Example, sexual abuse, child labor, mental abuse, child trafficking. Early childhood programs should consider ensuring that child protection procedures are in place and monitored, reporting any suspicious activity, promoting assistance to victims of any form of abuse, preserving the dignity of children by monitoring the highest standards of personal and professional conduct when dealing with young children, ensuring that children from low-income families have the same opportunities as those from high-income families. And then lastly, we say participating in activities that are appropriate for their age and that they can fully express their points without the fear of being judged or ridiculed. So this point of child protection is something also that we need to go and research thoroughly. We in the olden days, our parents would have been regarded as child abusers for the dishes that they made us wash at the age of 7 years old, and for the child minding that we had to do of our younger siblings at the age of 9 years old. In today's time, that is not seen as appropriate, and the reasons for that is because of the lessons that were learned in the olden days. So we need to respect the ever-changing trends that come in, because the research shows that the old trends have failed and have caused harm to these children. They have not protected these children. And as people, as advocates for the early childhood development, we need to be in the forefront of child protection. All right. So when they speak about ensuring protection procedures are in place and monitored, they are speaking within the ECD sector things like ensuring that there is a register and that there is a consistent driver or caregiver or a relative that always picks the same child up. The minute it differs from the normal person who picks the child up, the child is not supposed to be released into that person's custody, whether the child recognizes that person or not. Right? So usually in the application forms, they will ask you for the name of the person who will be collecting the child every day. They will ask for that person's identity document, and they will ask for that person's signature. The staff will know that person, and when it differs from that, they will phone the parent who enrolled the child there, and they will first check with that parent. Ideally, what should happen is that parents should phone the school and say, listen, I am not able to pick up today, or Tabo is not doing around today. His grandmother passed away, whatever. So I will be sending my cousin or my daughter or whoever to come and pick up the child. Her name is so and so. I will tell her to bring her ID with as well. Sometimes you have incidences where parents are divorced, and one parent is abusive. So in order to punish another parent, they go and pick the child up from creche when they normally wouldn't, and then they run away with the child. We've seen this happen countless number of times. To save yourself the trouble, make sure that you have the paperwork in place for child protection, a register where the only person and the normal person that picks the child up always will pick the child up, unless otherwise agreed and signed for between the person who is enrolling the child and the school. And that is not only protecting the child, it is protecting yourself as a school, it is protecting yourself as an educator also from trouble. All right. So that brings us to the end of our module 1 of session 1 for 2024. I'm checking the message box. I don't see anything there. I will now hand over to Pedro or Nick to call the session to an end for us. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. It has been awesome.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sophia, for the lovely class. Yeah, we are 2 minutes after 8. Just quickly, does anybody have any questions? Any quick questions? All right. Nobody has questions. Margaret?
Hello.
Hi, do you have a question for us?
No, I just got in here just now. I knocked off late, so I was just gonna listen.
Oh, sorry. The class is actually just ended right now. But what we will do is we will post the recording of the class into the WhatsApp groups. So if you haven't managed to catch the class now, you can always catch it with the recording.
Okay, all right, no problem. And the other thing is, I was studying alone. I was doing it alone since last year, but I never got a chance to be in like a proper class like this since I started. So is it fine if I can just start with you on these recordings and stuff while I progress with where I am? I'm now busy with my, I'm sure, portfolio 3 there.
Yes, this shouldn't be a problem. If you can, that sounds like an administrative topic. If you can maybe send us a WhatsApp message in the morning and then we can assist you there and we can guide you there.
Okay, there's no problem. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Margaret. Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. Our next class is in 2 weeks' time. Thank you again, Sophia. And sorry, Lorato, you've unmuted yourself. Do you have a question?
Yes, sorry. I noted when we were talking about the ECD environment, like we mentioned safety in nutrition, but then there's something that clicked on my mind that it wasn't mentioned, the ablution facilities, because I realized that the ECD centers which I see around where I live, they got something like the up. They'll be having like a small bathroom toilet. So just want to know if that's proper or not proper, because we didn't even mention it here. So I'm just asking out of curiosity that is it necessary or not?
Are you talking about ablution facilities?
Yeah, we didn't mention
All
that.
right. Sophia, do you have an answer to that one?
Yeah. So there are standards according to the health department on how many children are permitted to a toilet. I can't tell you offhand right now. I'm a little rusted at the moment, but I think it also depends on the age of the children. I think in the age group of 5 to 6 years old, it was 20 to 25 children per toilet. So that means if you have 50 children in the school, that you are supposed to have at least 2 toilets in that school. All right. Also, another thing that the regulation has been deadly about was about keeping male separate and female toilets separate, and there hasn't been a consensus reached on that. But the norm for us in South Africa is that we have a toilet separate for males and a toilet separate for females. Another point on ablution on toilets, and so on and so forth. We always encourage that there should be at least one bath or shower facilities when children have extensive accidents, you know, they have diarrhea or whatever the case may be, that you are able to give them a nice rinse down to get rid of that, and we don't have to upset the whole parent to come and fetch their child and take them home and bath them. And the last point on that is that we must always ensure that the staff facilities for toileting, for ablutions, for cleaning up and freshening up is separate from that of the children. So you can go and look that up. You will find it under the standard procedures, or you can just in WhatsApp on the group and request it, and we will have that document sent to you where you can get the specifics on how many children per toilet and what the requirements and the measurements of those toilets are supposed to be. It's quite extensive and very important knowledge to have as well.
All right, thank you.
Perfect.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much. Thank you, Sophia, for answering that. And thank you as well, Lerato, for your question. It was a very good, informative question. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much. And we shall see you at the next class. Have a lovely evening. Thank you.